Hey, how's it going? Welcome to the Sunday live stream. How are you guys doing? I know some people are not going to be here. That's fine. I have no real theme this week. I'm just sitting here talking to you. We're gonna look at some of the big news over the week. I haven't I started reading watching this show called Golden Kamui. It's a it's a cool little anime. I'm on season 3 already. You know, it's not bad. It's not, my favorite, but it ain't the worst. Um, but other than that, I haven't been really diving into anything. I haven't finished any of my manga yet. I went back to reading Attack on Titan, so I'm still working through that. I'm still reading some of my wrestling books. I started the book with Stan Hansen's book. I started reading that. I haven't finished Thomas Sowell's Social Justice Fallacies. I haven't finished that book yet. I read that book while I'm at work. But I got the Hellsing manga that they just put out, the second edition of it. They're starting to reprint it, so I ordered that and I got the first issue and read that, and so there's not a lot to talk about in the realm of pop culture. I would be stretching it if I could. I mean, in terms of the things that I like to talk about, which is like manga and anime, comic books, etc. I didn't watch the Marvels. I have no intention of watching it, so I don't know what's going on. Um, but we're gonna what we're gonna talk about mostly, I think, is probably some of the stuff that's going around. The number one thing that I kind of want to touch on is how quickly Puff Daddy or Diddy got that lawsuit handled, and he's the feds. I don't care what nobody says from this point on. That dude is the feds. Um, he is absolutely the feds, without question. That thing came and went entirely too fast. He is and absolutely he's a Fed, and he's involved with some real high level stuff. If he was able to get that case to pretty much disappear in 24 hours with all the stuff that was in it, there's no way, ain't no way, for that to disappear in 24 hours. Also, there's of course, some issues between Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro. Maybe I'll touch on that. Um, so, and anything else you guys might want to talk about, you know, we can get into it. But that Puff Daddy thing, I mean, it was the first time in a long time that I saw something and said to myself, I do not doubt any of the comments in there. Yes, initially when I saw that Cassie was filing a lawsuit against Diddy, I said, like, wasn't she with him for like 10 years or maybe more? And she was. She was with him for a really long time. And I'm like, wait a minute, you can't tell me that this guy was like sexually assaulting you, beating you, raping you pretty much every day for 10 years and you still stayed there. But there was so much in that thing that was that I wouldn't put past him. That this was probably the first time where I was like, bruh, I believe it. Like, legit, I believe it. All right. The Puff Daddy thing, and it's because he has such a history of being a weirdo, you know? Like, sometimes you do make the questions, and it's not like I know Cassie or anything. It's just we've been hearing little things about Sean Combs for a long time. I mean, upwards of 20 years that, we've been hearing weird stuff about that guy. And so here she comes out, she just dumps this crazy lawsuit on you. It's all over the internet, it's all over the wire. People are talking about everything that's in it. Diddy has her involved with voyeurism. He blew up Kid Cootie's car. All this sort of crazy gangster shit about him grabbing guns and trying to kill Suge Knight. And I'm just like, okay, some of it sounds like an exaggeration, but enough of it sounds true that I'm kind of like, you know, I don't doubt it. But then when I heard that it was settled pretty much 18 hours later, like I don't even think it was a full day later. I think it was just a few hours later, and it was already over, and they're not talking about it no more. It hit the wire like a neutron bomb, and then whoosh, disappeared in the wind. I'm like, hell no. Hell to the gnaw. That Negro is a Fed. He is. He's got to be somebody important on some sort of government list. Otherwise, how did that disappear so quickly? There's people who were innocent, who did nothing wrong to anybody ever, and that stuff stuck to them like glue for several years. This guy was on the screen for 4 hours, and then it was gone. If I am to believe that anybody sort of the black Jeffrey Epstein, it's Diddy. I 100% believe that Diddy is like the black Epstein, and he tries to get all these other people involved with it. We've heard too many stories about him taking rappers to gay bars, and they didn't know anything about it. You know, I think it was Exhibit was the guy who, he went to go hang with Diddy, and Diddy took him to a gay bar, and he didn't know like what the hell what the hell are they doing there. Diddy's having friends who are just like dying out of nowhere, people getting killed. Like his bodyguard got killed, and then he was partying with the dudes who killed his bodyguard, like the BMF dudes, Like he's doing songs with like Jeezy and all these guys. These are the dudes who supposedly was involved with his bodyguard getting killed, and Diddy's like dancing around with him in the video. And I'm just like, wait a minute. There's so many situations in which my eyebrows just went up like, come on, man. So I didn't see this as being something that I'm willing to put past them. I'm willing to give him the benefit of the doubt. Not Diddy, no. R. Kelly, not really either, but Diddy definitely not. I believe he did that shit. I believe he involved her in a lot of stuff that she didn't want to be involved in. Do I think like he was, holding her down and doing his business, as they say in The Color Purple? I don't know. I don't know if that was even necessary. But do I believe that she was probably highly uncomfortable with his lifestyle, but because he was probably paying for everything and taking care of her and all that kind of stuff, she went with it. And plus, she was a young girl too. Hell yeah. Hell yeah. I believe that he took this young singer, and that's what she was, a young singer. He took her under his wing. She gave herself to him, and he took advantage of it. He was like, okay, in order to keep, getting what I got for you, I'm going to 100% use you in certain ways. He's, I think within the lawsuit was, Diddy wanted to watch her have sex with other men, which is not as deviant as some of the other things that I've heard that he was involved with. So yes, I believe that. I do believe that he's probably sitting in a chair on the other side of the room watching some guy plow Cassie. I 100% believe that. I believe that he was involved with some really devious, dirty, degenerate stuff. I believe it. I believe it. Do I believe that he had Kid Cudi's car blown up? I'm on the fence about some of the gangster stuff because Diddy does have, I know some people don't believe this, but he does have some really strong street ties. And that's one of the things that kept him from being, touched in the rap game for a long time is everybody kind of knew that Diddy was two different people. He was the character that you saw in the videos, dancing around with, Farnsworth Bentley and, trying to rap. But then there was the Diddy behind closed doors, who you kind of saw a caricature of that on like Making the Band and stuff like that, where he was like making them walk and get cheesecake. That was sort of a caricature of what people had always heard about Diddy in terms of how much of an asshole he was, and how he was, very difficult to deal with, but you couldn't really get to him because he was pretty much connected. But I'm looking at this thing now and I'm saying, like, man, there's a lot of that stuff that I read that I believe. And for the fact that that stuff got cleared up that quickly, that settlement, he probably just said, whatever you want, you got. And I'm like, wait a minute. We're not going to talk about this more? We're not going to, there's no documentary? Is there going to be a surviving Puff Daddy documentary? Probably not. So this thing is gone all over already? Oh, he the feds. He got to be. How else did you sweep this under the rug so quickly? I don't know. I don't know. Very weird to me, dog. I'm very suspicious of that. Do I think Jeffrey Epstein was murdered or committed suicide or still alive? Well, he's certainly not alive. I don't believe he committed suicide either. Look, when you are the keeper of secrets, you know, in certain societies, when you're the keeper of secrets, you're the person that has to go down because dead men tell no tales. You know, dead men tell no tales whatsoever. You know, so I know he kept flight logs and all that kind of stuff, but you could take all that. I mean, that's what the government did. They got all that stuff, and then they put like a 50-year-old lock on it. I think they said it was. There's like I've never heard of that before. I've never heard that people who file Freedom of Information Act requests on stuff like Epstein flight logs got told that it is sealed for 50 years. That means pretty much anybody asking for it right now won't be alive when it's unsealed. So that should tell you that there's something in there that they don't want you to see. And I'm telling you, it's probably something similar going on with Diddy. He probably look, he's been in the business long enough. He's bumped elbows with all kinds of people. He was involved with politics for a little while too. There's all sorts of things that are absolutely positively degenerate that he probably knows about a lot of people. And he and I think Darren Gordon-Hill is correct here. I think before it really hit the wire, he pretty much had handled it. And that's really what makes me so suspicious, you know, because there's no way that, that this thing and pretty much in the media is gone already. Because Kanye West did substantially less than this and lost every single business deal he was doing. I haven't heard about Diddy losing any opportunities. I haven't heard about anybody dropping Revolt. I haven't heard about anybody, stripping Bad Boy of anything. And speaking of Bad Boy, recently, within the last, I don't know, 5 or 6 months, he's been giving people their publishing back. So one of the girls, I think it was from some group, I think it was Danity Kane. She said that he was going to sign her publishing back, but she had to sign an NDA, basically absolving him of anything that he had ever done. She's not allowed to disparage him in public. She's not allowed to discuss anything any situations between the two of them in public. Now, look, I'm not tripping on the NDA part. I mean, that's just the cost of doing business. Most people want you to do some kind of NDA because there's still some industry secrets that they want to keep to themselves because you do have to have a certain level of secrecy in order to do business. Your business strategies and that sort of stuff, you don't want people sharing it. But people, again, we talked about this with Vince. People think NDAs mean that you did like some really horrible. We walked in on like one of those eyes wide shut cult sex orgies, and he don't want you talking about it, which it could be. But that's the thing about it that's very weird, is that when you get asked to sign an NDA by somebody who's a creep like Diddy, I have no idea what you probably have seen. Like it'd be easy for me to be like, okay, a lot of these people probably don't know nothing, didn't see nothing, and they're just kind of like, whatever, sign the contract and that's it. But then there's probably some folks who did see some shit and was probably like, I don't want that on my conscience. I ain't gonna tell nobody about it anyway, whatever. But of course he was not gonna give people their publishing back, with no strings attached. Of course there was gonna be strings attached to it. I mean, it's a free gift at this point, you know? So it is what it is, man. But I was shocked at how quickly that got done. I was shocked. I probably wasn't even no negotiation. It was probably more than likely, what does she want? She wants X millions of dollars. Done. And that's it. The quicker it got done, the less people talked about it, the more people moved on from it already. Some people have they spent a couple of hours cracking some jokes, but think about that slow drip of how they were killing Kanye. They were killing Kanye. Like it wasn't even every day. They would talk, it would take something he said and it would stretch it. And it would stretch it so over time, and he would say like a bunch of things in one interview and it would get stretched for days and days and days. And then you would see he lost this business deal and he lost that business deal. And these people are walking away from him and they're making fun of him on CNN saying this is what happened when Negroes don't read. But did he? I didn't hear none of that. I didn't hear anybody talk about, what kind of bad person he is or anything like that. I didn't hear shit about Diddy. That tells me that he's got a substantial amount of power. That when he can come out here, get accused of rape and all kind of other degeneracy with a young woman, clean it up in 24 hours, and the news cycle don't destroy him the way they destroyed Kanye, who just merely said some stuff that they don't like. Get out of here. That nigga's a fed. All right. Diddy's a fed. He's a plant. And I don't care to look into it. I don't care to sit down and do my Illuminati research. Diddy is part of that shit. All right. Diddy is probably chin deep in all of it. All of it. When I heard when they was out here talking about Will Smith having sex with some guy, I was kind of like, it's believable, but it's not as believable as all the stuff I read about Diddy. I'm telling you, I believe not only was Diddy on Epstein's island, I believe he probably had a landmass right next to Epstein. I 100% believe that Diddy is one of the most degenerate, debaucherous individuals in this entire country. And he's going to probably live to a ripe old age because he's still useful to people. He owns Revolt, which I think pumps out both the Breakfast Club and Drink Champs, right? And those are two huge podcasts and radio shows for the culture, quote unquote. So he basically is in control of the culture. Am I right or am I wrong? Does Revolt not have the Breakfast Club? Does Revolt not have Drink Champs? When Kanye West went on a Drink Champs and said some crazy stuff about Jews, Diddy had it taken down. Right? I mean, it is what it is. I'm just mentioning, and I'm sitting here saying it's wait a minute, the Breakfast Club is on BET. Are we sure about that? They don't have any kind of deal with Revolt? Because I can't look it up right now, but I'm pretty sure they got some kind of deal with Revolt TV. I'm not sure. Is it an old deal that I'm remembering? I got a giant mug of water. Sorry. The Diddy stuff, nothing new. He'd be stealing masters and all types of shady stuff for ages. Yeah, but this is see him being a sharp businessman. We've known that forever. Mace told us about that. There's a bunch of people who told us about how Diddy was as a businessman. But we've also known that Diddy as a person was incredibly suspicious. Like there are so many rappers who have these crazy stories about Diddy. And it's like entirely like Exhibit, Fabulous. Like there's just so many people that have been in that sphere, and almost everything involves crazy sex, especially gay sex, and a bunch of other stuff that is not like, hey, Diddy hangs out with his kids and, I went over to his house for Thanksgiving and it was perfectly normal. It was like, no, he was getting me drunk. And what did 50 Cent say? He wanted to take 50 Cent shopping. Like just weird stuff like that, man. It's like, I don't know. Like I remember when I watched that and I saw that happen. You know, you know, when I saw that happen, when 50 was talking about it, I said to myself, like, what's the big deal? What's the big deal? Okay, so I was partially right. Breakfast Club was on Revolt, but it's not on Revolt anymore. Okay, I was close. So for a long time, he had his hand in that pot. Um, uh, just he has been a part of some really bizarre things. He used to date his son's ex. Jeez, come on, man. And that girl is not that old. I mean, Lori Harvey, she's what, 25? You know, she's not that old. I'm not tripping on the age. I'm not saying like he's a, what they call him. He's a groomer. She's an adult person. She can do whatever she wants. She can make her own mistakes or whatever. Dating the father and the son is some really hoe shit, but it is what it is. I'm just saying, like, if it was just Diddy got a taste for like the 22, 23-year old. I mean, that's Leonardo DiCaprio. He does that too. But Diddy is always involved with some really weird stuff. You know, one of the first, I wouldn't say one of the first people because I saw like Jamal Mashburn and some stuff like that. But he tried to popularize wearing dresses in the early 2000s. You know, um, and then a couple of people who was involved with Bad Boy was involved with that kind of stuff too. I think Young Jock was involved with Bad Boy. He wore a dress. A lot of the Bad Boy artists ended up dead. Some of them ended up just getting sick, But I think when you look at the number of dead rappers, I think Bad Boy got you beat. You know. Well, how many of them died violently? I don't. Let's not be. I don't want to blame them for like Craig Mack or Black Rob. I mean, I think those guys got sick. They had like health issues. But it's possible for you to fake a health issue. I'm just saying they got health issues. But like murders, homicides, suicides, Diddy has been around a lot of people who have died. His first baby mama died. Biggie died. A couple of other people had illnesses and they died. You know, so there's been some, and people are kind of like, these Illuminati sacrifices, and that could very well be the case. But you don't got to convince me when it comes to Diddy. Now, other people, you might have to convince me a little bit. You might have to tell me a story and, try to connect some dots. But Diddy, I believe it 100%. 100%. He's been involved with too much, and been famous essentially for no goddamn reason for a long time. He become a character where he can just be a part of something and other people will accept it. You know, and he's got way too much power and he knows how to use it on people. Diddy turned up. I saw the video of I think it was it a video or a GIF or something where he asked Justin Bieber why they don't hang out no more or something like that. And I'm just kind of sitting here like, what is Justin Bieber was like a 14-year-old kid, not even like a 14-year-old white kid. He's just a 14-year-old kid in general. You know, like that's weird. It's weird, man. It's very bizarre. You know. At the same time, though, be fair. There's been a lot of people who have threatened to kill him. I think the Lock said he threw a refrigerator at him. Nothing bad happened to them. you know, like I would think that if somebody is gonna, get bumped off or rubbed out messing with Diddy, it'd probably been Styles P. But since he's still alive, I'm kind of on the side of maybe he didn't think it was that big a deal. But I don't trust that dude at all. He is, to me, you don't have to do too much convincing to me when it comes to that. Happy Sunday on a Sunday night. Hope you're doing well, sir. Everyone in the live chat. Thank you very much for your positive energy. I absolutely believe. Thank you very much. won't be going to Diddy's house for the holidays. Man, I don't think anybody does. He does have all the men call him daddy. uh, I was pretty. I was murder. P Diddy named me pretty. Ugh. Pause. I was one of the, I was one for the record books right there. That's a pause for the record books right there. I think Cameron X makes about that, didn't he? You asked him to explain that. Explain that bar right there. Anyway, yeah, I believe Diddy did all the stuff that was in that lawsuit, and it's really exposing the media how they didn't treat him like they treated Kanye West, and there's quite a few people like Russell Simmons didn't get treated that bad either, and he got accused of some of the same stuff. He was dating an underage, girl. I think she was 16 or 17. Kimora Lee Simmons. She was really young when they started hooking up. And he got accused of a lot of stuff either, and that stuff vanished too. But it didn't vanish as quickly as the Diddy stuff. Like that stuff, like it went away. Like you was talking about the Clintons, like that stuff went gone. Society Reviews, what's up, man? He says, remember when Diddy attacked a UCLA coach when his son went there? Got away with it too. Oh yeah, he did. He gets away with a lot of stuff, don't he? And the stuff just disappears. Like he has done so much crazy shit, and it just vanishes. He just continues to be Diddy, dancing in videos. He God doesn't lose a business deal or nothing. Just that's the thing that that really kind of is killing me though. Like it didn't take long for almost every business partner that Kanye West had to react to something he said. But when it comes to something like this, it takes forever. Look at what happened with Elon Musk when he put out that tweet, right? When he put out that tweet when that guy was criticizing Jews, and Elon Musk said, well, you're speaking a lot of truth. Look at how quickly so many advertisers reacted to that tweet. This happened over the weekend. Like people were talking about pulling money out of Twitter. Mick Foley quit Twitter because of this. He's about to sue. Apparently, Elon Musk is going to sue Media Matters because they've been putting all this together. But look at how quickly it happened. That multi-billion-dollar companies were reacting like that. But when it comes to something that involves Diddy, that reaction does not come. It does not happen. It never happens. I've never heard of Diddy losing a business deal because of some of the crazy behaviors that he has exhibited, some of the crazy stuff that he's done. And we've all sitting here listing different things that he did, things that he. So you got to ask the question, who's protecting this guy? And the only answer I could think of is he's a Fed in some description. He's probably a mole in the business. There's probably some people who, he knows some folks. And there's no doubt in my mind, he probably has more information that he's willing to share on what happened to Biggie, on what happened to Tupac, and, a bunch of other things. And plus, I don't trust anybody who claim that, oh yeah, Wolf was my best friend. He's one of my best friends. And Jeezy is buddying up and giving shout outs to, Big Meech. And those are the Negroes that killed Wolf. And you sitting here chilling and dancing with them and everything. And didn't have to. Like, that's the weird thing. It's not like he had to. It's not like he was down bad and, he wanted to use them to get back on. Diddy just likes to be around these dudes when they hot, and it's a running meme, when Nelly was talking about, his beef with the Saint Lunatics or whatever, and he mentioned like Diddy called him to do, a song for the Bad Boys soundtrack, and he wanted the visual of just him and Nelly in the video. And then when that clicked in my head, like he always does that. Whenever somebody is hot, Diddy wants to buddy up with them, be in the video, dancing with him, and all that kind of stuff, right? And he's done that so many times over so many years that people kind of like, oh, that's just Diddy being Diddy. But it's he does. I mean, it is what it is. Like he likes being around these dudes when they on top. Pause. They on top. Diddy likes to be there. I don't know why. He just likes to be in there. And he likes associating with them. I don't know what that means though. Like it's and from like what guys like 50 Cent and Fabulous say they experienced, I don't think it's a good thing that he's like hanging around with some of these guys. So he's a Fed. There's no doubt about it. I don't think you could convince me otherwise at this point. He's just been involved with way too much stuff, and he's got away with it, and he's got a tight grip on the culture, and that tight grip that he's got on the culture has led people to sort of overlook a lot of his behaviors, and how he got that swept under the rug in just a few hours is crazy to me, man. That's some powerful lawyering right there, dog. That's some really powerful lawyering right there. All right, Drake. Yeah, Drake does it too. He's learning from Diddy. Birdman used to do it too. I guess he kind of slowed down with that. He used to do it a lot too, but Diddy's the master of it. Puff is the master of that, and a lot of it comes from he has the ear and the trust of the tastemakers, the gatekeepers in the record industry, that you haven't really made it until you get that Dancing with Diddy music video. You know what I'm saying? Or at least that's how it was when I was like heavy into rap. You had to be involved with that dude in some way. And I was very suspicious when I saw Nas and the Hate Me Now video with Diddy. I was like, okay. Like the only rapper I can think of that didn't do that was probably DMX. I think I don't think Jay-Z did it either. But DMX, I don't think he had any business with Diddy. But most of the guys did. Especially dudes who were coming along in like the late 90s, early 2000s. Diddy was right there with him, all the time. And it's highly unfortunate. He's definitely a cloud vampire. He mastered that. I think he might have even originated it. He might have even originated it. I mean, and I'm not gonna lie to you, he's very entertaining. He was like one of my favorite parts of like the Special Delivery video, or the Flavor in Your Ear video. Like Diddy dancing and being a part of that was kind of like what made the video fun. But now I'm significantly older. I'm looking back and I'm like, why did it have to be like this all the time? You know what I'm saying? Like it had to be like this literally all the time. I'm very suspicious of that now. I know they work together. I know Jay-Z and Diddy work together, but I don't think they've done that Jay-Z dancing in the video with Diddy stuff. Because I'm trying to think of what song would they have done that with. And I know Jay-Z had his own Diddy and Dame Dash. So, he didn't have to do that with Puff. He had his own guy, to dance in the video drunk and everything. But Puff was there for everybody. And it was so weird. It was really weird. And now that I think about it even more, I'm creeped out. Because it was like It was like a ritual almost. You got to get your music video with Diddy. You know, and I'm just kind of like, I don't know. I don't like that, bro. I don't like it. I don't like it, especially now that I'm looking back at it. I really don't like it. Like, I can't watch some of those videos now because of how that makes me feel. Um, did I see a video of Simba and Tierra Whack dissing Nas? No, I did not. What subsection of rap did I like listening to? I like pretty much most types of rap. I was more of a boom bap kind of guy, but I liked rap in general. I could appreciate Nelly and Wu Tang Clan or Brand Nubian and Lil Jon and the East Side Boys. I just went through cycles where I like some stuff more than others. Like more consistently, I probably listen to more East Coast rap consistently, but I could appreciate different genres and different eras of the music. Like, I don't listen to rap now anymore though. Like I haven't listened to like the Nas album was the last rap album I listened to, and before that, the last rap album I listened to was Nas album. So I listened to the stuff that he did with Hit Boy, and I think I listened to Donda, but that was it. I don't really listen to rap anymore. That doesn't mean that I think rappers. I think a lot of rappers today are whack, but I don't because that's why I don't listen to them. But I'm I just feel like I grew out of it. Like rap is definitely for kids, you know, and the kids are just getting dumber. That's all. Who do I think exploits their artists more, Death Row or Bad Boy? Well, that's a solid question, but when I think that about Death Row, you got to think about how they ran the company. And Suge Knight, like, see, there's a hard power, soft power situation with Suge Knight and Diddy, right? Like that soft power is that ability to basically kill your career. I don't need to go on TV and threaten you. I don't need to hit you. I could just put you on ice for months and months. That's what he did with the Locks. Basically put them on ice, own their publishing, control their careers from a distance. He did the same thing with Mace for a long time. That was that soft power. That hard power is what we talking about with Suge Knight. Having dudes beat up in the studio, you know, attacking dudes in the hotel room, dangling dudes off the balcony. It's like, yeah, that's that. I'm surprised that stuff went on as long as it did. If we're being honest, if dudes was as hard as they claim, they'd have killed Suge Knight in like '98. Or he probably wouldn't have made it out of that car with Tupac. If we're being honest, but yeah, I mean, when you talk about exploitation, I don't think either one of them was paying dudes fairly, but that's just the nature of the music business. I think Diddy looked at your success as being his success and probably incentivized it more versus Suge Knight, who, because he was ruling by power, you can tell he never really wanted dudes to get too popular, and he certainly didn't want them to have too much control. Like a lot of the issues with Suge Knight became, how he was trying to force certain things to happen, you know, or he was trying to prevent certain things from happening. Like the issue with, Tupac wants to get out of the deal. All of a sudden he gets killed. How, Dr. Dre wanted to leave Death Row. And then everybody's dissing Dr. Dre out of nowhere. Even Tupac. Tupac is dissing Dr. Dre. And, the same thing with Snoop Dogg wanted to leave. All of a sudden dudes is dissing Snoop Dogg. It always felt like it was forced. Like it's Suge Knight behind the scenes. Like there's stories of him smacking dudes and stuff like this, and you're like, oh my goodness. Gangbangers in the studio, enforcing rules and shit. So I guess it depends on what you mean by exploit. Because what Diddy did to some guys' careers is sinister, just absolutely. And because it's that soft power where you're not telling stories about Diddy smacking people in like a hotel rooms or whatever. even though I know he did that kind of stuff, it was so pervasive in death row, the aura of fear, that not only were you not being paid, but you run the risk of just flat out getting beat up. You know, I would probably say Suge Knight, because at least Diddy wasn't going to beat you up. He might put you on ice forever, but he ain't going to beat you up. You know, you might dance with the some bitch who kill you though. Just saying. Um, just saying. Mongo, Joe Budden had Drake record 6 extra tracks for his album, Certified Cuck Boy. Yo, what's up, Vegeta lover? Poor righteous teachers, X Clan, Souls of Mischief, 8 native tongues. I've I've listened to native tongues. I don't like De La Soul though. Like I've never been a fan of De La Soul. But Tribe Called Quest, yes. A lot of the stuff from the Uma, like that stuff too. Um, I'm trying to think of the group that I like. The album Dilated Peoples. It was called Blowout Comb. That's a great album, by the way. A lot of dudes in hip hop either getting shot or booty gooned. It's just so much of that, right? Um, that's why I'm never surprised when I hear rappers are doing very, very awkward things. Painted like over the years, we started seeing so many guys like paint their nails and just have just very feminine mannerisms, and it's very easy to just be like, well, they were setting you up for like the Meg the Stallion era, or it was they didn't have fathers in the home. But then you think about it, it's like a lot of these dudes were being groomed by the industry, people like Diddy, into being what they are. You know, like when these guys became like the ultimate gatekeepers, these dudes got like super super effeminate, and stands to reason that they would have something to do with that, I guess. You don't have to worry about the executive producer dancing all in the video, but you do have to worry about the CEO smacking you in the office or something like that, or threatening to have you killed because you don't want to make this album. You know, to enter the Diddy verse. Yeah, that was crazy. Is that dudes wanted to be in the Diddy verse because Diddy was like the gatekeeper. He can make it happen for you. You know, there's no doubt about that. There's no doubt about it. Yeah, Diddy is definitely a wife beater. Freestyle Fellowship, The Far Side, DOS Effects. Um, I think I've listened to of those. I think I listened to Far Side. I've heard of DOS Effects, but I don't really like them. I've never heard of Freestyle Fellowship at all. But Diddy I believe he did everything they say he did. Now, when that dude recently came out and said that he saw Will Smith having sex with what was the guy named? I was about to call him Dante Martin, but it's Dwayne Martin. I could just tell from the conversation that he was gossiping and it probably wasn't true. But I still don't put it past Will Smith to be like involved with like gay stuff. I don't put it past him. Will Smith is in Hollywood. There's no doubt about it in my mind that he's probably involved with some crazy behaviors. But I don't believe people who have an axe to grind and they come out and they use very colorful language. Like the language that the guy used was that Dwayne Martin's baby leg and he was killing him. Like he was just killing him. And I'm just sitting here like, why is he being so colorful and so, so thorough about it? Like that's gross. Like, and it's meant to give you that guttural, visceral reaction. And that's when you have to realize that he's probably lying. He's saying that stuff so that you will believe it, but he's saying it to gross you out, really. You know? It's not like he was like, oh yeah, Will Smith and his boyfriend Dwayne, was just hanging out and I was hanging out with them and they were holding hands or anything like that. It's got to be like some real gross and to put the visual in your head gross stuff, So, but I was surprised that Jada Pinkett was so mad about it. I was very surprised she was mad about it. I'm like, why does she care? You know, unless it was like he cheating on Tupac. Remember that special Ed interview from Drink Champs where they asked him to describe why he thinks NWA is the reason for black self-destruction in the culture? I don't remember seeing that. And I don't think NWA has anything to do with that, if we're being honest. Um, I think other people had more to do with it than NWA, if we're being honest. If you listen to an NWA album, none of that stuff is about degrading yourself, destroying yourself. It's about talking about the kind of things that they experience and the people around them experience. But it's not, you should go drink yourself to death, pop pills and kill yourself. That would come later, where guys would drink themselves into a coma. But I think a lot of that came from like the St. Ives commercials and stuff too. And people completely overlook that. A lot of it is sponsorships. That guys were being paid to, push certain things. So, but I wouldn't put that on the lap of NWA. I certainly wouldn't. It's not because it's not their fault. Vigilante Williamson says Jada has convinced a generation that Pac loved her when he was engaged to another woman when he died. Make that make sense? Well, there's two different schools of thought on that subject. The school of thought is that they grew up together. That's undeniable. Jada Pinkett has always said that Tupac asked her to marry him, and she said no. So if you could say that he was, engaged to somebody else, but that's because Jada Pinkett said no. And the reason why she said no was that Tupac was an alcoholic and he was in prison. And she talked to her mom about it, and her mom told her to say no because Tupac was an alcoholic and he was in and out of jail. And I think he was in prison when he asked her. So if that's what we're, that's the only way I could see that she could get away with saying some of the stuff that she said. Because the thing about it is she has been consistent in terms of all the stuff that she's been saying about him. She's been consistent with it for like, it is, people think she just started talking about him a lot. No, there has been books written about Tupac from like 20 years ago where she told this story. There's a book from Michael Eric Dyson that's out of print right now on Tupac that I probably got on my shelf or in my closet or something like that, where she tells the exact same story she was telling recently on TV. I mean, on the internet, and it's pretty much the exact same goddamn story, and people think it's new. It's like she's not making up new stuff, except for maybe the hustling thing. But then again, girls hustle. I just don't know whether she was like out there. I mean, here's the thing. It's an interesting story because I don't believe at all that JD Pinkett was out there selling dope. I don't believe that one bit. I don't believe that one bit. But if she had a drug dealing boyfriend, I could believe that. And maybe she went on runs with him and she did stuff because that's how girls typically get involved. They hold something in their purse. Guy says, knock on the window, give them this, and that's what she do. And then that's it. It's weird. I don't know. But I don't believe she was out there hitting the corner. I don't believe that at all. That just sounds like bullshit she coming up with for the book. Vigilante Web thinks she made it up and believes her own lies. Pac didn't want her like that. I don't know. They were both so young, though. I mean, we keep forgetting that Tupac was like 24 when he died, 25 or something like that. He's a very young guy. It's entirely possible that he might have asked her, but he didn't mean it. It might have been true that he was doing drugs and alcohol, and and he thought that was the right thing to do at the time. Or it's entirely possible that she made it up. I mean, none of us was there, so I have no idea. But I'm just saying she's at least been consistent with that story that, you know, when he was in jail, he asked her to marry him. She's also been consistent that him and Will Smith got into it because, Will Smith knew that she had dated Tupac or whatever, or that they were friends, and that they had some kind of special relationship or whatever. But who the hell knows, man? It's entirely possible she made that shit up. And I tried to feel bad for her because she did know the guy. They were friends. They grew up together, and he was violently murdered. And sometimes people don't get over that. At the same time, though, it's like she talked about him so much. So I'm just kind of like, I feel bad for Will, but then I don't feel bad for him either because he's a punk bitch who like lets her run all over him. So I don't feel bad for him either. But of the two, I probably feel worse for Will, because he's getting embarrassed right and left. I mean, everybody's trying to embarrass him. It's terrible. It's a damn shame. But it's an interesting situation that she would get so mad about this whole Will Smith being gay thing, especially considering she claimed that the two of them weren't together. They weren't even together. They had not called each other husband and wife. What she said, they weren't together for 6 years or something like that. I mean, come on. Why does she care if he was banging Dwayne Martin? You wasn't fucking him, you know. One comedian. that is true. Like, I don't. Jada Pinkett is absolutely somebody that you run into not on your own volition. In recent years, she's become the toast of the internet. But before that, outside of dudes basically being like she fine as hell from the '90s, I never heard anybody talk about Jada Pinkett so much. Like when I was younger, I used to hear about her a lot because like my uncles and older cousins or whatever thought she was the finest woman on planet Earth. But after that, in like the early 2000s, you could might as well Jada Pinkett might as well not even fucking existed until recently. Now she's everywhere, and it's partially because of all the crazy stuff she's saying online all the time. But it's a real sad story. I just don't understand why she needs to like humiliate her husband and her family on the internet, on TV pretty much weekly now. You know, it's embarrassing, and she knows it's embarrassing, and she's still doing it. So it shows very poor judgment. It's not just poor judgment; it's the fact that it's almost malicious at this point. You know, so it's very weird to me. It may seem like to me that she's blaming Will for something, that she's unhappy, and she said that she was unhappy, and it was unfair to try to for Will to try to make her happy, that Will was making himself happy and all this kind of nonsense. And I'm like, this woman's just miserable, and that's really what it boils down to. She's miserable. And she doesn't know what else to do, so she's lashing out at Will, you know? And so now humiliating Will has become like this new pastime for her. And at this point, I don't think she even gets any joy out of it. I do believe that at some point she probably did find a measure of humor out of humiliating and embarrassing Will Smith. But it's been going on for so many years now that it's probably lost its luster. Like she would have to come up with new ways to embarrass him now. She admitted to fucking one of their kids' friends in a in an interview. Like, that was the ultimate. What more can she do to humiliate this man? You know? So I think it's lost its luster. And now, she done shaved her head and she like she done aged 50 years and two. She looks older and older every time I see her. I think she's just miserable, dog. And I dare say I don't think she wants to be alive anymore. I wouldn't be surprised you know, if she didn't take that step. Something tells me she don't want to be here no more, man. She's probably very fucking miserable. And I don't know what is it going to take to fix it. But banging young dudes didn't fix it. Getting married to a multimillionaire Will Smith didn't fix it. Having babies and being married and having a family didn't fix it. Daydreaming about her best friend who's been dead for 20 some odd years, that ain't fixing it. Man, we keep hearing all this shit about healing and I'm trying to heal and all this bullshit. She ain't trying to heal, man. She's depressed. That's what it is. She's probably going through it. And she's looking for reasons to live, you know? And she ain't got much going for her. Heavens to Betsy if Will fuck around and just leave and he missed the boat on Margot Robbie really, really hard. But if he just fucked around and left her a long time ago, she probably would have OD'd on pills or something by now. And I think that probably would have been, and I'm being very brutal right now, but I think that if I would not be surprised that within the next few years we don't hear that she's got like a drug problem or she gonna fuck around and do herself in. She just comes across like somebody who is very, very miserable. I never hear anybody say anything. Every time I hear the name Jada Pinkett, it's for something negative. It's never for anything positive. She never has anything positive to say, but she's always talking about healing. Everything is always about kind of lashing out at other people. But I'm looking at it and I'm saying, like, I don't see happiness out of her. I'm not getting that vibe. I'm not getting the vibe that she wants to be on this planet anymore. Like, I'm sitting here saying, like, her kids are grown. Her husband and her apparently have been apart for a long time. She's out here now talking about how Chris Rock wanted to bang her. And I'm pretty sure Chris Rock was sitting back like, why are you talking about me? What I got to do? I'm catching strays now. I think the only thing that she got left is that Will hasn't had enough yet and hasn't left. If he get it in his mind that he don't want to be around that broad no more, she would look for a way, some way, to get him to come back, or you'll probably hear about her having a drug problem. She's probably already on some antipsychotics or some antidepressants. And I wouldn't be surprised. I mean, why else would she be talking about healing so much? The fuck she healing from? She needs therapy. She's probably already been getting it. But she's another one. She's been in Hollywood since she was young. She's gone through a lot. But she's got all these things to be happy about, and I never hear anything happy about her. Like there's so many stories of like Hollywood folk that have developed issues and nobody knows about it until it's too late. I think it's part of it. I think D Skills H Town. I don't think she's looking at it in terms of she's making herself look bad. When it comes to women, they're big on gossip and narrative and all this kind of stuff. And she knows that people have become invested in her narrative, like what's going on between her and Will, because I don't know how long this has been going on, for like 4 or 5 years maybe, But again, she has continuously popped up every once in a while. Whether she's embarrassing him on social media, she's the reason he smacked Chris Rock. She's talking about having sex with one of her son's friends on a Facebook post. I mean, I'm sorry, on a Facebook TV show or whatever. You know, the kids are writing love letters to Tupac. All this kind of weird stuff. I'm just sitting here like, it seemingly came out of nowhere, and I'm just sitting like, huh, where is the positivity? But she knows that people are caught up in her narrative, and there are certain people who are going to want to hear what she has to say, and that's, I think, what she's trying to sell with that book more than anything. It's the same trash idea as Superheads, her book, which created an entire genre of women degrading themselves in novel form about all the horrible things they did to other people and the horrible things other people did to them and telling people secrets and all this kind of stuff. I think that's what she's trying to, cash in on that when it comes to that book. Jason David Frank died last year. The Green Ranger. It was very unfortunate. Oh yeah, Hollywood's demonic as fuck. It is very sad. All right, so let's finally talk about Ben Shapiro and Candace Owens. I thought it was very entertaining to watch them argue on Twitter, and it wasn't that long ago where a lot of people thought that the whole Daily Wire thing was everybody kind of is in lockstep. Everybody agrees with everybody. We even had Jordan Peterson saying some stuff that was kind of out of character when he joined Daily Wire. And people was kind of like, And then this thing happened. But what I think mostly is the big occurrence here in terms of the Daily Wire civil war, I guess you could say, is that it became Ben Shapiro's sacred cow, which is Israel. I think everybody's got that trigger. And that's one thing that I want to throw him a little bit of bail on this. It's because everybody's got that trigger. Everybody has some subject where they lose their mind. They stop thinking. For him, it's Israel. And the moderate criticism that Candace Owens had for Israel, and because she's a Christian, caused him to absolutely flip out, has been entertaining. But I've been very impressed that she kept her cool. I've been very impressed that she didn't back down, that she didn't quit. She didn't force herself to be kicked out or anything like that. And I'm one of the things about Candace Owens that was interesting to me, is I've always said she was a pit bull in a skirt. She wasn't always right, but she was dogged in how she believed. And when it comes to what she was going after, like Black Lives Matter and all this kind of stuff, when she was like an alligator or a crocodile or something like that. When she got something, she was not letting it go. And she was holding it and holding it and holding it. And she was going after beating that drum every day. She's doing the exact same thing now. Except I think she's matured a little bit. Or I think she's just playing her cards right because this involves, a colleague where she's not backing down. She's beating the drum, but she's not explicitly like pro-Palestine. She's basically just criticizing Israel's response, which a lot of people are doing. And the issue is that Ben Shapiro is a Jew and his sacred cow is Israel. And he is not going to both sides or nuance it. He's not thinking about it in that way. He's being defensive. And he expects other people to feel as strongly about this subject as he does. When they don't, and they have no reason to. Now, if they were smart, they would make some money off of this and do it live on either one of their shows and talk about it live. They were smart instead of arguing about it on Twitter. They should just set it up and sit down and talk about it. When she went on Tucker Carlson, and Tucker Carlson was instigating by showing the video, that made Ben Shapiro look really bad. Like he's talking about her behind her back. She probably doesn't even need to. He probably didn't know he was being recorded, if we're being honest. And she noticed that too. That he didn't say anything too horrible. Like he didn't call her names or anything. But the way he was talking about her, how she was disgraceful, and then on Twitter he told her to quit. And I'm just thinking, like, man, he's mad. Like, he's salty, like legit. Now, I know that there was an issue of like people think that Ben Shapiro owns the Daily Wire. I don't think he does. I don't think he's the CEO. I think he's one of the founders, but now he's just like a regular guy. So it was always going to be interesting because most of the Daily Wire guests or hosts, I'm sorry, are Christians. Matt Walsh is a Christian. Candace Owens is a Christian. Jordan Peterson is a Christian. But Jordan Peterson is like a Zionist, apparently. So apparently he's in the Ben Shapiro camp of do whatever you got to do to protect yourself. But Candace Owens at least is coming across like, the death of any child, regardless of whether they're Jewish or Muslim, is a tragedy. And we should be trying to work to some sort of resolution. But the argument that we should be working towards resolution, I do understand that it's a little too late. Like if you allow people to punch you in the face and then apologize, and then you're supposed to not retaliate because they apologize, what's going to stop them from punching you in the face again? Nothing. So from that perspective, I get it. Like I understand that, you can't just let people do terrible shit like what happened on the 7th of October and then, you just apologize for it and, we're all square. It's like, no, I'm actually with the Jews on this one. You can't just go around killing a bunch of people at our music festivals and everything, and then we good. That's just not going to happen. All right, can't do that. But when you have like when you're bombing hospitals, even if Hamas is using people as human shields, they've been doing this for 30 years. They've been doing it for a long, long time. And I talked about this a little bit in a video where nobody has a monopoly on you killed innocents. Everybody, that's what war is about. War is going to kill an innocent. That's what wars do. There has not been a war that has ever been fought where innocent people did not have to suffer the consequences of things that they probably didn't have anything to do with. That's the nature of war. And to say that is one of those things that pisses people off because they don't want to accept that their side is probably behind some kind of atrocity. But it's a fact. If you think that a war is just, any war, then you think that the justifications are okay, and that if a civilian or an innocent dies, that's just collateral damage. If I found a war justified, that would be what I was saying. I mean, it is what it is. There's just no two ways about it. Now, targeting civilians is a completely different ballgame, which is what they usually talk about. Oh, Israel's turning off the lights. They're stopping the water from getting into Gaza and all this kind of stuff. And then you have to realize, why should you aid your enemies? You're at war. If your enemies need water and lights, electricity, and all this kind of stuff, and you have the ability to turn it off, well, that will end the war quicker because they don't have resources. They don't have any water, they don't have any food, they don't have lights. So that helps you. You know, continuing to give your enemies resources just prolongs the war. You know, so but I've watched a lot of people, and I've seen quite a few people fall out over this thing. You know, I think Jason Whitlock fell out with one of his guys over this whole Israel thing too. Like this thing is really driving a wedge, and when it comes to the right wing, and a lot of it is because certain Christians are Zionists and almost worship the state of Israel, and other Christians are a little bit more Christian and see this as a straight up human tragedy, and they kind of want this to stop. But we're at a crossroads because if you tell one side to stop and they listen, and the other side doesn't, then you're just in a position where one side continuously attacks the other. And that's really what we've been living with for a long time now, anyway. Israel has the Iron Dome, which is a gigantic defense mechanism, where they could deflect rockets and all this kind of stuff. And for years we've said, "Oh, Israel, don't fight back, don't fight back, don't fight back, don't fight back." They're guerrilla soldiers. Hamas isn't even a real government. Don't fight back. But over time, you get sick of that shit. Over time, you do get pissed off. Over time, you've had enough. So I'm looking at it as fairly as possible. And I think if you're going to go ahead and go with the war, fight it till it's over. You can't worry about all these people who don't live there, especially all these goddamn Americans who don't live in these war zones, who don't have rockets coming towards their house. You can't worry about what they think about what you're doing. You just can't. Because it's your life, it's the life of your children and your grandchildren. You can't let a bunch of white liberals in New York City dictate how you protect your family in 4,000 miles away or whatever. It just doesn't make sense. It's not reasonable. So I don't take seriously anybody who is a pro-Palestine activist who either tacitly accepts what happened on October the 7th, try to find some way to excuse it, and somebody who thinks that there should be no retaliation. I sympathize with people who say there's probably going to be retaliation, but let's keep it limited, because that's at least a fair and reasonable expectation. That can we at least keep this stuff to a minimum, rather than let's be blowing up hospitals and turning off the lights and shutting off the water and all this kind of stuff, and we got a blockade going on and all this. At the same time, though, who wants to continue fighting wars for the rest of your natural life? If you destroy them now, we don't have to fight them again later. So I'm trying to look at things fairly, but everybody has their own thing about it. It's just that Ben Shapiro's his his sacred cow was that he is Israel. He's not going to take any criticisms towards Israel. He's not going to deal with it. And it's very unfortunate. But I'm interested, in how they're going to. Like I said, if they were smart, if Candace Owens was smart, they would just go and they would have a podcast together. She would be like on the Sunday Conversation or something like that, and they spend 30 minutes to an hour talking about it. That's That's how it needs to be. Work it out. Everybody knows Ben Shapiro is going to talk very fast and all this kind of stuff, but she needs to be able to say her piece. He needs to be able to hear what she's saying, counter what she's saying. She needs to be able to counter what he's saying. They're not talking about each other behind each other's backs. There's no, Tucker Carlson or anybody else to instigate, and they can work it out themselves and keep the money in house. And they both work for the same fucking company. If I had a problem and my job is to talk for a living, let's go ahead and work it out on the show. It doesn't matter whose show it is at that point. Does it matter if it's Ben's show or if it's Candace's show? No. It really wouldn't matter at that point. Najee Savage says NYC is filled with pro-Palestine protesters now too. Like you could be late for work because of them blocking the traffic. Yeah, like it's an interesting thing because white liberals are taking up. It's mostly white liberals and some black ones too. But because like Mark Lamont Hill, it took me a while to come to this side of the conversation, but I'm here now. It's like, bro, what are you talking about? When was the last time Mark Lamont Hill took a position that was unpopular amongst leftists? That Negro will eat sawdust if everybody else on the left is eating sawdust. He doesn't have a brain in his goddamn head. And that's really what pisses me off about a lot of the left-wing academics and their student zombies. These people they don't think. They have no thoughts for themselves at all. They pick and choose which side they want to be on by power dynamics and skin color, which is quite frankly low IQ as hell. And I agree with Vigilante Williamson. That's got to keep it 100. I really don't care what happens over there, bro. Like I'm at this point where I'm just kind of like, look, it is what it is. All I know is Israel been dealing with it for a long time. I know they've been using it to justify, still having the draft and forcing people to join the Israeli military. I know they've been using that to, the threat of being attacked as a way to raise money from Western countries like the United States to buy weapons and different things like that. I know that there's propaganda around it, but I also know that it's a real threat. And I don't see how you can deny either one of those things. It's a legitimate threat that they have been keeping around, so to justify some of the behaviors that they've had. He's not an important person, don't worry about it. He's just, well, technically speaking, he's like one of these useless black academics. He's a culture commentator or whatever. Another one of these like Cornel West types. And I watched Cornel West yell about Israel and Palestine for like 3 minutes. I think he was in New York, and he was, I stand with my brothers and sisters in Palestine. I'm like, oh, brother. His fake run for president. This ain't real. He ain't got no policy. Your policy is communism. That's not a policy. A righteous and moral dignity of the democracy. Yeah, get the fuck out of here. You're an empty suit. I used to love Cornel West, man. Like that's the thing that really depresses me. I used to love Cornel West. Like he was one of the gates to me reading and trying to understand American society and foreign politics and all this kind of stuff. And then I watched him just basically get bullied into being what he is now. Part of it was Al Sharpton saying that all you do is sit in your university, your Ivy Leagues, you don't do anything. And then he's gone out getting arrested because Al Sharpton called him out on like MSNBC or something like that. And so now Cornel West is out here getting arrested. Now he wants to run for president. Michael Eric Dyson destroyed him in like a 10,000 word essay. And they both did this to protect his criticisms from Barack Obama, which he was right about, by the way. But I basically watched Cornel West get pushed into this caricature that he's, portraying on TV now and internet. And it's all the same shit. It's all just empty rhetoric from people who don't have any skin in the game. And all they do is sit around talking about morality. There's nothing moral about any of this shit. Like none of this stuff matters. And this is the weird thing about the whole Al Sharpton thing, is that it undermined Cornel West's message. Because he was criticizing Obama about something or other. And then he was also Al Sharpton was defending Obama. And then the attack basically became that Cornel West is too detached from the common Black American because he went to Ivy League schools and he's been an Ivy League professor all this time. What does he know about what real people are doing, what real people believe, and all this kind of stuff? So that pushed Cornel West to actually show his chops. He wanted to prove himself to this grifter, Al Sharpton. And so now he wrote a book with Tavis Smiley called The Rich and the Rest of Us. And in doing that, him and Tavis Smiley got on a bus and they went around the country to prove that what Barack Obama was saying and doing wasn't working for everybody else. It just pushed him further left, but it made him a political activist. And that political activist, it detached him from his academic roots. And now all he does is moral grandstand. Every time I hear him, I don't hear a smart guy anymore. I hear the same empty crap I hear from every other angry, emotional, overeducated dipshit. And I don't get it. Like most of these people don't want to fix any problems. They just want to act like they got all the answers. If the Israel-Palestine thing could be handled in a simple way, it would have been handled already. Like the reason why it hasn't been handled, it's been 60 years, is because it's a complex issue. That's why it's still going on. Like there's no easy answers to these things. These are difficult scenarios. These are difficult questions that people are asking. It's not easy. And these people who just jump on one side because it's easier to do, they lick their finger and see which way the wind was blowing, and that's which way they're going to go. These are not smart people. And so now TikTok is like all this pro-Palestine crap. And by definition, it's making like the Israel stance a right-wing stance. Like, if you're pro-right-wing, you're going to be on the side of Israel. And everybody was sitting here like, wait a minute. Now, there's an element of truth to that because the right seems to be filled with Christians, most of whom, worship Israel for some odd reason. And now we're stuck in this position where it didn't need to be that way. But a lot of the pro-Palestinian protesters and stuff, they just hate America. Israel is just a proxy for the United States. That's all. Their hatred for Israel, calling them fascists and all this kind of stuff. That's basically the same shit they say about the United States. You're a fascist, you're a racist, you're genocidal, homicidal, suicidal, fratricidal. It's like, oh my God. Just on and on and on with the name calling, ad hominems. It's just ridiculous, bro. It's never going to fix the problem because it's not meant to. It's culture jamming. The point of it is to piss you off. The point of it is to disrupt your normal life and to force you to do what that guy in Panama did. Like when that Panamanian dude went up and shot those two protesters because he was fucking sick of like constant protesting, that's the kind of stuff that they want to happen, believe it or not. Because then they can make martyrs of people. Like that dude, he probably not even politically motivated. He was just tired of constantly having his life upended because some people thought this is what they know or what they believe is right for everybody, and they're going to force it upon you and disrupt your life until you agree with them, whether it's Palestine or climate change or racism, Black Lives Matter or feminism or whatever. People are tired of watching government buildings be attacked by protesters, and it's not being called terrorism when they do it. When they overtake a building, it's not terrorism. When they vandalize some statues, it's not terrorism. They destroy and loot some shit, it's not terrorism. The moment you do some shit, it's terrorism, it's fascism, it's everything. But that's kind of how it's always been. The left gets away with murder. Literally. But it's always been the fault of the right. I blame them 100% for how bad the left is today. Because if they'd have cracked down on the left in the 60s and didn't allow a lot of the crap that they were doing in the 60s to fly, they wouldn't be doing it now. Oh, yeah. Not only are they hired, so many of them are like learning from people from the 60s. Like I was saying before, there were terrorists, like the Weather Underground. I forget what the guy's name is, but everybody knows who he was because he worked with Barack Obama for David Akers or something like that. David Ayers. He ended up being a professor at the University of Michigan. He was a fucking terrorist, and everybody just kind of forgave him. Like, oh, it's okay. It's like Angela Davis. She's a fucking communist. She's been getting paid by universities for 40 fucking years. Nobody ever deplatformed these people. Nobody ever shut them up. Nobody ever pulled their books from the shelves. There's been tons and tons of professors and colleges pushing this same shit for years and years. And you've been seeing this stuff literally all the time. And you can even see it in Spike Lee movies in the 80s. When they was talking about apartheid regimes. College campuses like School Days was a movie about, part of the I guess you could say, what was it like? Maybe a C plot in the movie was about divesting from South Africa until, the fall of the apartheid regime. That's basically, they have turned college campuses into shit like that, going back longer than most of y'all been alive. So the inability of the right to have any sort of cultural authority has created the problems that they have today. The rise in crime that's going back up because of defunding the police. All the crazy protesting, the destruction of a lot of local economies. That's going to be a murderous thing in 10 to 15 years. Like what you're seeing when it comes to like people like Rite Aid's being closed and CVS is being closed, and the war on like Family Dollars and grocery stores, and there's like a looting culture in some of these cities. In 10 to 15 years, bro, and they're gonna probably blame it on racism. But when you look at it directly, it's people who have allowed for a long time left-wing culture to penetrate every element of society. How they have incredible amount of sympathy for criminals, none for people who are property owners. And it bubbles up every time you turn around. Like you see in New York, I just watched Actual Justice Warrior video earlier, and you're talking about these migrants, and they're spending tons of money to build housing for migrants, and the migrants don't want to go to the housing. Like they're taxing the shit out of their citizens to build housing for migrants from Honduras or Argentina or whatever. And these people are picking and choosing where they want to go. It's like if the right had any sort of cultural power at all, not only would they be deporting them, there would be no such thing as a sanctuary city. You know, this stuff would not be occurring. It's because they have zero cultural power. And it's hard to say where they, how they would stop it. But it's the right's fault. They surrendered. They are afraid to use the authority when they get it. And the moment they do get some authority, they tend to go too far, or they basically just do the same shit the left does, which is instead of shrinking government, which is what they promised to do, instead of going after like criminals, which is they promised they do, they go after stupid shit. They sit around, they argue about gay marriage and who's going to use what bathroom. And look, I know that some people think that stuff is important, but it's not as important. On the list of things of importance, whether your daughter runs a track meet against a male or other females, it's not that important, right? What's important is your local economies are being destroyed because of mass looting, drugs, and people shitting on the street. If you're not going to fix that problem first, I don't want to hear what your opinion is on ding dongs in the girls' locker room. I don't care. All right. You can't even get into a position of power to stop that. So now you have fentanyl all in your streets. And part of that has been because the left has been pushing drugs for years. And you see, like, what was that guy Vivek? He went on the National Republican debate talking about how Joe Rogan should be like one of the moderators. It's like Joe Rogan pushes fucking drugs on people all the time. Joe Rogan sits here talking about one of the funniest questions is, have you ever tried MDMA or LSD or all this kind of shit? It's like he's a guy who tells people to use drugs. Drugs might help you. I remember that time I took shrooms and all this dumb shit. The right has always been the people who started telling them we need to shut down on the drugs. They focused on weed, but the rights were talking about all drugs. And now you got people giving away needles. They're giving people heroin needles so they can nod in the street. And all the right can do is make YouTube videos about it because they have no cultural authority. They can't actually do anything. I mean, what can you do? Really? You can't do much of anything right now. It's very unfortunate. I care more about that than I care about Israel. Israel has their problems. I feel bad for them, but we got our problems too, and our problems are a little bit more immediate because they're right so close to home. I'm telling you, 15, 20 years, man, it's going to be very bad. Oh yeah, BLM are definitely the feds. They're definitely the feds. But it's going to be very bad, especially in the big cities, because what they're doing is that they're burning the candle at both ends. Like one of the things that they've done is they started doing these 15-minute cities where they're going to start trying to force people to basically live in the projects, or everything that you would ever want is going to be within walking distance, So then they're going to take your cars away. They already have passed these laws, like in California, that's going to phase out all gas-powered cars, going to force you to buy an electric car that they then will be able to control remotely, like, because it's going to be hooked up some kind of software, which the government is going to be able to hack and shut your fucking car off as you try to, drive from California to New Mexico or something like that. They're going to shut your fucking car off and lock your doors on you. Like, people are not paying attention. They're not. They're too distracted by the trans shit. I don't even care about that stuff anymore. Once I realized that there's there's issues underneath that, and I see that there's places now that used to have stores that don't have stores anymore, and I'm starting to see some. I'm like, yeah, this is going to be a big problem. This is going to be a big problem. You know, when 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 these neighborhoods don't have pharmacies and they don't have brick and mortar stores anymore, and everybody has to order everything online, there's going to be somebody there to track it. You want to deal? They already are basically decriminalizing things like porch pirating. Like people can steal from your porch, snatch your Amazon packages or whatever. Like they're starting to say stuff like those Ring video cameras that people have put on their porch. They're starting to say that those are going to be illegal. Like, I mean, how can they do that? But they will. They will, because there've already been people arguing that you shouldn't be able to have that kind of technology. It's a trap because people are getting caught snatching stuff off people's porches. Anything to defend yourself is going to be considered illegal or fascist or part of the surveillance state or something like that. I'm telling you, bro, it's going to be very, very bad. It's going to get worse before it gets better because the right can't win any fucking elections. And if they do win an election, the person who wins is probably going to be more some Nikki Haley type of right winger who's not really a right winger at all, or somebody who's Republican in name only and will basically buckle on every issue. And this includes Trump. You know, this includes Trump too. You know, when they start telling you you can't protect your own property, bro, it's over. You cannot have a capitalist society if you cannot protect your own property. All right, the police are not going to show up. The police are not going to do anything, but also you're not allowed to do anything. So now you got just widespread looter societies in like Portland and San Francisco. They don't pay for shit. People just going in there snatching stuff off the off the shelves and walking out. How can you have a society when you don't have trust? Like, I did this whole video probably 3 or 4 years ago about America being a low trust society. That's why we have stuff behind, locked doors and all this kind of stuff. We don't trust each other anymore. And the left is pushing a society in which you can't trust anybody. You know, anybody can steal from you at any time with basically no consequences. You know, it's a wrap at that point. Like it's over. It's over. If somebody can snatch your packages off the porch in the city, in the state, and basically everybody's gonna be like, "Why you have Ring technology on your?" Like, what the fuck? Who cares? This guy just stole my package. Well, we're more concerned about why you have a video camera on your doorbell. Mm. Yeah, somewhere like Texas probably. Now, here's the thing: you would think that you're safe in Texas. Think about Austin, big blue city in Texas. As that population probably increases, they're probably going to get more and more authority in Texas state government. Eventually, you're going to get a governor or somebody that comes from Austin, and you're going to be fucked. All right, and you better hope that everybody else is deep red, because it ain't gonna take much more. He says, "How will feminists turn this when they are legalizing grape?" Oh yeah, good old grape culture. See, here's the thing: it's only grape culture when they don't like you, when you're ugly and you're fat and you're. But they haven't gotten so debased yet that they letting grapists out. They haven't gotten that far. Armed robbers, yeah, carjackers, yeah. But Everybody sleep on what the Democrats have done, man. They sleep on it. They don't even control the Democratic strategy is not to own the state. It's to own the big cities. That's it. That's all they need. In certain states, like in Michigan, all they need is Detroit and Flint. That's pretty much it. And if they own Detroit and Flint, that's most of the population of the state. And that's it. And that's pretty much it. Illinois, all they need is Chicago. And then that's it. In California, I think, what was it, San Francisco, because of the tech sector. And I think the highest population is Los Angeles. That's pretty much it. Oregon, Portland. Washington, Seattle. New York City. New Jersey, I think, is what, Newark? All they need is the big city. If they can have a foothold in the big city, it's over. And guess what? Big cities naturally lean left because it requires more government intervention. You need roads, you need schools, you need transportation, you need electricity, you need libraries, you need hospitals, you're going to have colleges there, museums. And think about that. In rural areas, you don't need all that shit. So they're a little bit more right wing, a little bit more DIY. Do it yourself, figure it out yourself. In the city, oh, they want to talk about, how big is this apartment complex you want to build? They want to control the land. It's like it's very fucking simple. They don't need to run the entire city, the entire state. All they need is the big cities. That's why they want to get rid of the Electoral College, because the Electoral College is a check on that shit. What we need is statewide electoral colleges to prevent people from being able to just win Philadelphia, as JS says, and be able to win the fucking entire state of Pennsylvania because you won Philadelphia. You got more votes in Philadelphia, so therefore you're going to win. Bullshit. Bullshit. All you have to do is look at the strategy. And the right are not countering the strategy. They have almost no stronghold in Detroit. There is almost virtually no Republicans to be seen at all anywhere in Chicago. You can forget about it. Same thing in San Francisco. Most of the same thing in New York. Good luck trying to become a Republican or a Libertarian or anywhere and win something in one of these big cities in the United States. If they ever do finally get rid of the Electoral College, this country will become a communist, socialist country within 10 to 15 years. Within one election cycle, it'll be over. Because you'll never fucking win again. Because big cities don't learn. Because they require a lot of this shit that people have been trying to get rid of. I'm based out of Detroit. And I can tell you right now, Detroit's been under Democratic control since 70s. There's still areas that are bombed out in Detroit from the riots in the 60s. They didn't bother to fix it. That's why they wanted, the Democrats usually win the popular vote. That's why they want to get rid of the Electoral College. Because the Electoral College is a check on the popular vote. All right? And people got to do the knowledge. You got to handle your business now. You got to think about it. Too many the Democrats have controlled these cities, and controlling the city allows them to control the state because that's where the bulk of the population is. That's smart strategy. Republicans are being stupid. They're saying we're just going to keep appealing to all the country folk, which ain't nothing wrong with the country folk. But you got to have some kind of plan for the cities. If they were smart, like Oklahoma or Philadelphia or Mississippi or somebody like that, They need to do statewide uh, a statewide electoral college. That way that the people who don't live in big cities get to remain active in their political system. Otherwise, it's going to eventually, because look at what they're doing to Colorado. Like Colorado used to be a red state. They went and basically took over Denver, and now Colorado basically is blue. That's part of why they have been celebrating this Deion Sanders thing, because Deion Sanders is bringing in all these celebrities, Snoop Dogg and Lil Wayne and all this shit into Colorado, a place that most of these people would never go on their own. And once Colorado flipped blue, it's over with. Once you get Denver, that's it. You get the college town in Boulder, you got the big city in Denver, you win. Where else are you going to get most of the people in Colorado? Good luck. Like the West Coast is fucked. Like there's going to be some kind of Mad Max Beyond Thunderdome shit going on like in Portland or San Francisco soon. Like when they started building those giant fences because Xi Jinping was coming to town and he built these entire big ass fences in San Francisco, it's going to be more of that. There's going to be more of that. There's going to be a fence between all the normal people who got money and are upper middle class and all the heroin addicts on the other side of that window. They're going to fuck that. They're going to fuck it up. They're going to fuck it up big time. Big time. And part of it is how political cultures are created. See, this is generally speaking, and I don't necessarily like this, but it's mostly true. Liberals tend to be more creative. Conservatives tend to be more managerial. So what ends up happening is you have a society is mostly going to be left wing. Going to be filled with creatives, people who want to build shit, tech guys, entrepreneurs, etc. They tend to be a little bit more left wing. But their policies don't really work. But they're willing to put their balls on the table and do it. At least a certain number of them will. So it's going to take the left wingers to actually get some shit done because the right wingers ain't going to do anything. But then the right wingers have to come in and save the left wingers from themselves. So they're going to have to come in and actually manage what the left has already done. And you see this at the national level, where the right is no longer talking about getting rid of Social Security and Medicaid and all this horseshit. They used to talk about getting rid of it. Now they're talking about how they can better operate this system, how they can change the age and all this kind of shit, right? They're talking about managing it. They used to be talking about getting rid of the IRS, getting rid of the ATF. Now they're talking about how they can better manage it. So once the managerial stuff once they come in and they fix everything up, they get the budgets right, they probably, change some cultural issues here and there. People get tired of that. It's all about the revolution. Then the left comes in and they just take what you just spent all this time managing and take it to the next level. And they start doing more shit. And then the right has to come in and manage it. This is why they say like the Republicans are like right winger. I mean, sorry, like they're like Democrats from like 10 to 15 years ago. Like there's a lot of Democrats now who basically just want to be like, oh man, I wish we could just, go back to the gay marriage debate because now we're debating about, trans issues and a bunch of other stuff I'm uncomfortable with. When the left is like, or they're trying to find new ways to accommodate the trans discussion, because the left has already had it. They're not debating the issue, they're doing it. Like this whole, what is a woman thing? Well, a woman is whatever a person says they're a woman. They're already putting that shit into law. It's already in there. In some of these states, they're putting men in women's prisons. They're already doing it. This is what I mean by the left is pushing shit forward. That's why they call themselves progressives. They're pushing shit forward. The right ain't gonna do nothing but come in and manage it. They're probably gonna come in and set some standard about what a woman is. Instead of just saying, fuck this, we're not doing that. We're gonna reverse this, throw it out. They're probably gonna be like, well, trans people do exist, so how do we better fit them into our society? And then those are gonna be the only kind of right wingers that win elections. Because anybody who's gonna have a hard line, get these people the fuck out of here, they're not gonna win. And it's not even about the trans issue. That's just one example. Because economically, the amount of money that the left spend on things like the arts, like it's humorous to me how the right sit back and let the left spend so much money on dance troupes and goofy art projects. Like New York City in the middle of COVID was funding people who were dancing and doing performing arts in the middle of the street. Like they were still funding that shit. While they had people sitting in the house wearing masks, they were still funding the arts so that people, and they were talking about how important that was. It was so important for their development and all this work. It's money laundering. And the right don't do shit about it. They don't come in and be like, we're cutting it all off. Just turn off the spigot. That's really all you need to do. Once you realize that a lot of the left-wing causes are funded by taxpayer dollars, just turn the fucking spigot off. A lot of the universities operate off taxpayer dollars. Turn this fucking spigot off. Stop giving money to the universities. Oh no, we can't do that. So here's what we're going to do. Instead, we'll just manage it. And then when the left gets in power, they just turn the spigot all the way back on again. Instead of just turning this shit off and unplugging it, they just figure out, we'll just massage it somehow. We'll limit it somehow. It's ridiculous, bro. It's dumb. It's really, really dumb. And that's what we're stuck with. It's a shame. And go out there and be honest and say, because I would say, like, some people have said to me, like, you should run for office. I would say, like, the first thing coming out of my mouth is I'm going to defund the universities. And the first thing that's going to be here, I'm going to be able to hear it from Ann Arbor. If you defund the University of Michigan, hundreds of thousands of people are going to lose their jobs because the entire fucking city of Ann Arbor is nothing but the University of Michigan. It's gotten that big and out of control that the entire economy of that general area is about the University of Michigan. You can't touch it. There's nothing you can do. You're stuck with it. And then these Republicans know that, so they don't say it and they don't do it. Instead of being like, fuck it, I'm doing it anyway. Even if it costs me the election, I'm going to do it because it needs to be done. They say, well, we can't do that. And so guess what? The mill just keeps on going. They keep on sucking up more taxpayer dollars, more DEI projects, more crazy pro-Palestinian, Black Lives Matter idiots in the street, because you don't have the balls to tell the truth. The universities are manufacturing this shit. We're going to turn it off. All of this liberal arts crap that we've been paying for that most people wouldn't even miss if you got rid of it. Like, there's so much of that shit, man. Just turn it off. Or at least make the companies that they have captured spend money on it. Because the university is not going to die because the taxpayers turned it off, stop paying for it. They'll just hit up, the Ford Foundation or somebody else to pay for it. But the taxpayers won't be paying for it. And then you can lower taxes. Because now the taxes aren't being spent on bullshit anymore. You can legitimately help people at that point. But they don't want to actually fix anything. It's all about how best to manage whatever crap the left wing has come up with. They're not standing on principle. They're not standing on business. Too many right wingers are like, well, what about if the grid goes down? if with your electrical, like what happens if your electrical bill isn't paid and you can't charge your electric car? I'm like, bro, who gives them the power to demand what kind of car you drive? How about we start there? We can't even start there. They've already capitulated to the Green New Deal. They've already capitulated to it. They're just trying to find ways to massage what the left wants to do. Instead of just saying, no, we're not doing it. No, you can't do that. What you're saying is illegal. That's stupid. Somebody needs to be arrested. Sanctuary cities. The right are trying to figure out ways to deal with it. In Texas, how do we deal with these crazy immigrants? Instead of shutting down the fucking border, they say we're going to send them to New York. And everybody was like, oh, that's a great idea. That was a wonderful idea. I'm thinking, you just brought them into the interior of the United States. You gave them what they wanted. Oh, it's going to destroy New York's economy. Maybe, but they don't care. They're not from here. What about the people who live here? What about the American citizens that are in New York? Do they deserve to have their public services overrun and destroyed because you don't have the balls to send these motherfuckers back where they came from? What about the China connection? Well, to be quite honest, it's not just China. It ain't just China. It's the BlackRock connection, the Vanguard connection, the Saudi Arabia connection, the ability for individuals, whether they be corporations or countries, to be able to influence American politics by owning vast swaths of land or through being able to give money directly to a political group or a political campaign has been devastating. This is the one thing I do agree with the left on, is that we probably do need to get money out of politics. You know, like this is absolutely true. You know, when Chink Juncker starts, getting all red in the face, we got to get money out of politics. They don't want to get money out of politics because why take a position if you're not going to get paid for it? They get paid to take positions in Washington. They get that sweet lobbyist money, and then they get that sweet money when they go and do these speaking engagements. What incentive do they have to get money out of politics? They don't. There's no incentive. So it's not going to happen. So that means that anybody can influence the United States government through shell companies, through political action committees, through 501c3s, which are nonprofits, which is a big problem, especially in the cities. Like, I think Actual Justice Warrior, he coined the phrase, the migrant industrial complex, where there's NGOs, non-governmental organizations, built around the migrant crisis in Texas and New York and other places. Like there's becoming an institution built around them, which means there's not going to be jobs, which means now there's going to be incentive for that thing to continue forever. Like we have a homeless industrial complex in California. You're never going to deal with the homelessness issue if there's an industry about dealing with the homeless issue, because people are not going to put themselves out of work. And a lot of it comes from people getting money from like George Soros or China or BlackRock or something like that. And yeah, China buying up a lot of land in the United States. This is where I kind of get the idea that us being very, very open in terms of having a free society is starting to get questioned. Because do we really want to give these people that much authority over our land, that they can own like our farmland especially, and do whatever they want with it and control our food production? That's a national security issue. It's not necessary. That's not that's a economic issue. It is a national security issue, and we probably should be able to stop that. So even though I am 100% pro capitalist, private property, you should be able to buy and sell your property to whoever you want. This does make me question that, because I'm saying if somebody, the state of California, all of a sudden wants to start selling farmland to China just for the money, is that smart? No, that sounds dangerous. That don't sound right. It don't sound right for banks to own like large swaths of land that go unused forever, and then for them to be able to flip it to like BlackRock or something like that. I don't like that. You know, I probably would, if I had the magic wand, or if I had the ability, I probably would step in and stop that. If we're being honest, I'd probably force them to divest, but that would be a violation of the free market. You know, but like Tucker Carlson said, the free market ain't a religion. you know, it's a principle. It's something I believe in, absolutely. But I believe that just because I really enjoy something and like something and think it works, doesn't mean it can't be perverted. You know, you can pervert a blessing. People have done it for centuries. You could take a good thing and destroy it. You know, and you are creating a situation in which, if you don't handle it in some decent way, you wait for somebody else to handle it in a way that's not going to be nearly as fun. And I say that about capitalism in general, is you have to deal with the breakup of the monopolies, which I thought it is the government getting involved in breaking up monopolies. You kind of roll your eyes because the government is deciding what's a monopoly, and they're not always using the best definition of what a monopoly is. But it's either deal with that or deal with one company pretty much controlling the entire market, which is even worse, you know? So either you force China and BlackRock. I'm not just going to single out China, but China, BlackRock, Vanguard, all these shitty banks, Saudi Arabia, from buying up farmland and all this kind of stuff. You either force them to stop it, or you have to deal with the consequences when they decide to act on their investments. But you got to stop it, I think. I think that's, at least as far as I can tell, I can't think of any better way to handle it. Najee Savage said the media got the public arguing about the alphabet community and racism and not fixing our cities. Absolutely. And that's why our culture is full of horseshit. Man, people want to argue about that stupid movie and, or this stupid comic book or whatever. And it's cool to talk about it every once in a while. But the real issue is how shitty our cities are. The real issue is we're going to end up having a literacy crisis in the United States very soon. Very soon. Because I don't know if you guys know, look up the literacy rate in Baltimore. It's pathetic. All right. What are you going to do when you have a generation or two of adult voting people who cannot fucking read? What's going to happen? What's going to happen when you have big cities where 10, 15, 20% of the population can't read? What's going to happen to your cities then? What's going to happen when they can't write? What's going to happen if they can't understand documents? Then they can't understand the laws. I think I think that was my cue. But this is a real problem. It's a real problem. You know, people ain't paying attention to that though. They're too busy talking about trans issues and shit. So, thank y'all for your time, man. We're gonna wrap this up. That literacy issue is a big one, and that one, and the destruction of our local economies it's going to be a mess. Once you get to a certain level of people not being able to read, and then those people have no access to jobs, and they have no access to food, it's over. You're going to be living in fucking Fist of the North Star. Okay, you're going to be living in that. You're going to be living in a fucking Mad Max. All right, bunch of retards in electric cars running around shooting at people. It's over. And this is a society we setting up. Yeah, this was sad because it's reality. In reality, we could be doing better, but because our cities are run by unions and not by people who actually look at outcomes, how is it going to be improved? Who's going to improve it? It's not going to do anything but get worse. These people don't care about the outcomes of their ideas, and they have all the power and authority. It's not even about me being a Republican because I'm not. It's about me looking at this thing and saying there are people who do not care if your child can read or not, but they want your child to vote, and they want your child to go to college, and they want your child to just agree with them and everything that they want, whatever it is. And if your child is economically illiterate and literally cannot read, how are they going to make better decisions? They can't. You're crippling their ability to make better decisions. So the cities that are already down bad, Detroit, Baltimore, Oakland, parts of St. Louis, et cetera, Philadelphia, how is it going to get any better? How? Anybody with an IQ above dishwater is going to leave town because there's going to be nothing but criminals and fucking maladapted retards in your entire cities from this point forward. And nobody's going to be able to do anything about it because they're not throwing them in jail for robbing people. They're not throwing them in jail for killing anybody. They're not throwing them in jail for carjacking. They're not throwing them in jail for stealing. What the fuck do they have to do to actually get arrested? What the fuck do they have to do to get a substantial jail sentence? And we're talking about people who can't fucking read and probably have undiagnosed mental issues. And we're going to give them drugs too, by the way, whether it's SSRIs, antidepressants, or heroin needles, which they will be given to them by the NGOs. Come on, man. How is that going to be anything positive? There's nothing positive about that. There's no rainbows and sunshines or pots of gold at the end of that. What you're going to have is a serf society. People who are just plain stupid. And it's not going to be their fault. It's going to be the fault of the people who knew it didn't stop it. And I feel incredibly awful for a lot of the children who are going to school right now. And to make it even more sad is a little bit more personal. I was going to wrap it up, but me and my girlfriend, we had a miscarriage about 7 or 8 years ago. So I would have a 6 or 7-year-old child right now in school right now. And so I do take like the educational situation very seriously because I said, If we had had that baby, she would be 6 or 7 now. She would be in this educational system right now where kids are not thriving coming out of these systems. They cannot read. They cannot count. There are not that many high level jobs for them to do. And then we're allowing people to steal. We're allowing people to sell drugs in the street. We're allowing people to do drugs in the street. What society are we living? We're leaving for these children. We're propping up sex workers. There's a fucking Democrat, I don't remember where, but she's basically a cam girl, and now she's in office somewhere. Like, what example are we setting for these children? We don't care about their education. We don't care about their environment. We don't really care about their diet. We don't give a fuck about anything. It's always about what these people who are considerably overeducated, they have too much stimulus. They don't have enough time. They don't have anything serious in their lives. They don't have children of their own. So now they're starting to adopt other people, other full grown adults, from white women who are started adopting black men or Muslims or the homeless or migrants or whatever. And they're starting to treat them like children. And the real children are fucked. You have there this is not going to go well. I'm not 100% black pilled on it, but I'm getting pretty close. You know, when I see that, the LeBron James Promise School or whatever is underperforming, and then they covered it up, I was like, wow, that was quick. It's public information, and they covered it up because it's not a private school, it's a public school, and a failure of a public school has to be covered up by the unions. So send your kids to the LeBron James Academy where they're going to come out not being able to read and can't count. So what is the outcome? Either go to the NBA where you make $100 million, and then after the end of your NBA career, you're broke 5 years later because you can't count and you don't know how to trust people, and you let Pookie and Ray Ray and all of them tell you we're going to invest in Bojangles or some stupid shit like that. Or your kid comes out functionally illiterate, functionally economically illiterate, in a neighborhood where the only thing they can get is flaming hot Cheetos. What the hell is going to happen here? What's going to happen? It's over. Like, and that's a national security issue. Having entire large sections of your economy where people cannot read is a national security issue. That's an issue for sure. It's an economic issue too, because people cannot create jobs if the education level of the people is too low. Nobody's going to bring a job there that requires any level of education if there has a high dropout rate in your city. Who's going to bring a tech job somewhere where these guys can barely read? Why would they bring a tech job there? Why would they do that? Well, better hope everybody becomes a carpenter, or a plumber or something like that. At least they'll be useful. But most of these people are just going to sit around all day, getting high, waiting for the government to give them a check of some kind. That Andrew Yang shit of the UBI, it's going to come eventually because it's already been put out there in the universe. There's going to be somebody who's going to say, we have a bunch of people in our society who are low IQ. We miseducated them. They can't count. So what we're going to do, we're going to give them free money. And he's going to sit around all day. And we're going to hope that they don't commit any crimes, and maybe we'll pay them to not commit crimes. And that's going to be that. That's not going to be good, man. That's not good for human development, you know. And I think we peaked in the '60s, '60s or '70s. That's when we used to dream of the stars. I think I said this before. Like in the '70s, man, there were so many cool shows like Star Trek and Doctor Who, where science was at the base of the show. You know, we don't even have that kind of stuff anymore. All we got now is Love and Hip Hop and Black Ink, where girls with really bad weave and super long fingernails argue with each other all day. We have incredibly trash culture. There's nothing in our society that demands that we do more or be more. There's only things in our society that tell us to be emotional about other issues, emotional about climate change, emotional about women's rights, emotional about this, emotional about that. Not how can we really take our society to the next level. Because the people who actually do try to take our society to the next level, they end up being fascists. Because if they actually are thinking about outcomes, then they're not thinking about racism. They're not thinking about trans people. You're too worried about outcomes. You're too worried about whether this heart surgery is right or not. I'm thinking about how many black heart surgeons there are. That's not the same thing. Nobody cares about how many black heart surgeons there are. Nobody should care. We should be thinking about how we can do heart surgery in a way that may be less invasive, or that's more successful, or with better equipment, or how to help people heal from heart surgery faster, or something else that could make the experience better. Instead, we're worried about what color the doctors are and who they're fucking. Whether there are enough gay, Filipino, trans doctors. Who cares? But that's our focus, because that's what our universities are focusing on. And the universities are focusing on that shit because they don't have to deal with outcomes. They're not failing anybody. They're just pushing people through. And that's the same thing the high schools are doing, which is the same thing the middle schools are doing, the same thing the kindergartners are doing. So you're going to be lucky to have a doctor when half of your society can't fucking read. You're going to be lucky to have somebody who actually can know how to cut somebody open and actually repair their heart. Man, it's crazy. I'm drinking water, not nothing else. But yeah. Thank you, WG Phil, man. I appreciate that. Our society is pushing drugs, streaming, OnlyFans. Yeah, a lot of our kids are gonna grow up wanting to be YouTubers and basketball players, man. I mean, it's very unfortunate, but that's the nature of the beast. They want to play video games on Twitch and all that, and some people are going to be able to monetize that, other people won't. It's going to be too many people want to be Kai Cenat and all this kind of shit, man. It's going to be a mess. It's going to be a mess. And you might not even notice it for another few years, because it's going to be, how do you degrade a little at a time, then all at once? And that's how it happened with us. We degraded a little over time. Now it's not happening all at once yet, except for in California, where any stupid thing that pops into somebody's mind becomes law. But we're not too far off. All right, y'all. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Look, turn that frown upside down. Tomorrow you have an opportunity to change things. You look into some of the stuff that I've said for yourself. Like, look at the literacy rate in your city, whether kids are failing, and you might have to actually get involved. Like, I was thinking about that myself. Like, do I have to open up some kind of mentorship program or some kind of literacy program? Is it necessary? Like, I don't know what the literacy rate in Michigan. I mean, I'm not sorry, not Michigan, but Detroit is. I know it's low. You know, 20 years ago, somebody had said that it was a 40% functionally illiterate city. I think that was a bit high. 40%, that's just about every other person. It's can't read a street sign. I don't think it's that high, but I'm gonna look and see what it is, and I'm pretty sure it's still pretty bad. You know, but look into that. Look into the literacy rate in your city. Look into our supermarkets closing. Are your government officials, like here in Detroit? There was just somebody recently talking about we got too many Family Dollars in Detroit. There's too many dollar stores, too many Dollar Generals and Family Dollars. We need to stop that. We need to get rid of them. People work in these places. People buy stuff out of these places. People go into these places to get antacids and band-aids and they have light groceries, not a lot, not anything that is fresh produce, but you run all those places out too. But mostly people work in these places, and now they're talking about getting rid of them. What are you going to do? Who's going to decide how many CVS's and Family Dollars we can have in the city? And where? What happens when people need band-aids? They don't have to order them from Amazon. You have to wait 10 days to get some band-aids. You're gonna have an infection by that point. What happens if you got Tums? You need to run to the store and get some heartburn medicine. You know, it's ridiculous, bro. You need a quick pair of sunglasses. You need a new toothbrush. You need some toothpaste real quick. You need to go grab some deodorant. You can't run to Family Dollar to get some deodorant because some dickhead in city council thinks there's too many of these stores. This stuff matters, man. I used to do a thing called Policy Matters, where I used to talk about this stuff, but I thought it interrupted too much with the flow of the rest of the channel, so I got rid of it. I just basically put all of that into the Sunday video, where sometimes I'll talk about politics, sometimes I'll talk about pop culture. I did a little both today, a little political heavy. I wasn't intending on that, but then again, I had no piece of paper and nothing to talk about. But I'm gonna look into what the literacy rate of Detroit is, because I'm pretty sure it's bad. If I would have to guess, I would say it's in the neighborhood of 20%. So, but thank you guys for your time. I'll talk to you guys later, man. Peace out. Oh yeah, JS, you're absolutely correct. The abundance of delivery services, especially when they don't care about you getting porch pirated, is going to be an issue. All right. Look at the cost of delivery, how much it increases the cost of your product. You pay $13 for some food. You go through, what was this, Uber Eats or something like that. You got a $30 bill. It's like, okay, the plate was $13, but then you factor in a $6 delivery, and then you factor in the $5 tip. Oh well, this shit $30 now. Sheesh, you know. Instacart, killing me. I still use Instacart. I don't give a shit, but it's kicking my ass. It allows me to get things that I don't have to leave the house and go too far to get. But man, it's. And then also, whenever you rely on something too much, it gives people the opportunity to change it, or gives people the opportunity to sabotage it. Don't be surprised if people don't start sabotaging like this Uber Eats or these Instacarts or whatever by doing things we're probably not even thinking of. Not just letting you order $200 worth of groceries and then not bringing it to you, because they'll just give you your money back at that point. But doing other little things, like maybe stealing 2 or 3 items out of it that you might not notice. Just little shit. You never know. But somebody's going to end up destroying the trust in those situations too. It's inevitable. All right. Thank you guys. Peace.